So we got a 1973 MGB in the shop that's actually a repeat offender. We did a video on a number of little issues on this car probably a year ago. And it's back mainly for one of the problems we didn't take care of then that he opted not to do then, which is horns weren't working. But since then, he's got a headlight issue. He says it's only working on high beam right now, but sometimes it does different things. But if it's only working on high beam, it's probably going to be the steering column switch, the dimmer switch, and then we'll check out the actual headlight switch too, make sure there's not a problem with that. But since he had it in here last, he's put new headlights in it, LED lights. And if you look at them, doesn't look like they're quite lined up right. They're not positioned the same on both sides, like they're not clocked correctly. And then this one's way out of adjustment, facing way left. Interestingly enough, we turned the lights out, stood in front of it, and it seems like the passenger side is actually blinding oncoming traffic, where the left side we couldn't really tell where it was aimed without turning the car around and pointing it against the garage door. We can see the pattern better. Now, as far as the horn issue goes, I guess I had told him when it was in here last that there was a broken part. And I don't remember because it's been a year. The only broken part I can think of would be this part right here. And it appears that the brush is completely missing off of it right here. So a quick little lesson on how the horn works. Now this is for this year car. It changed a little bit over the years. The earlier cars weren't set up this way, and later cars were on the stock switch where you push it. But that little brush rides against this plate right here, and then there is a brush that goes in here, makes contact with that, and then that makes contact with this little plate inside here. And then when this gets pushed and this contact hits that one, it grounds out the horn and makes it work. Now, in this case here, this is a brand new one that I just took off the shelf, and it's actually not quite right, because when you put it together, there is no movement there, so it's a little bit too long. So I will have to grind on this thing until I get it to the right length to actually operate properly. That's one of the problems with aftermarket parts today. Now, on a chrome bumper car, the power to the horns is a constant hot power, and then the switch here grounds it out, making the horn work. But on rubber bumper cars, it's just the opposite. The horns are grounded and the switch sends power down to them. So I did decide to go ahead and let's look at the horns themselves, make sure we got power to them, and then I'll test them, make sure they work first before we actually go much further. And I found some stuff that's pretty typical. We find all the time on these cars. People have been in here and doing some rewiring and playing around with some stuff. Now the horn here on the driver's side was hooked up completely wrong, because you have two wires here. There's purple and then purple with a black tracer. Now I can clean these up a little bit, you can see better, but the purple wire is your power wire. Purple with the black tracer is your ground wire coming from the switch. Now they had both of these on the same terminal here. You don't want that, because if you were to try to hit the horn, all you'll do is probably just blow a fuse. But then they also had this wire here onto the other side. And I traced this wire on back to here, which was hooked up to this fuse here, which is the second fuse down. That fuse is only hot while the lights are on, meaning it was powered by the lighting circuit. And the lighting circuit can't handle the amperage of horns because it's going through the ignition switch. The bottom fuse here is where the horns go through. This, you got brown wires coming in, that's hot all the time, unfused. Purple is hot all the time, fused. And this is the fuse for it. Now we still have no power coming down on the purple wires. And of course you see on this one they're cut. So I'm going to have to fix all this up, make everything, trace all the wires, find out why we don't have power, and get it all hooked up properly once I make sure the horns themselves are actually good. Now testing the horns is really easy. You just got to put power to one and ground the other, and it doesn't matter which one it is. So you can take like a jump pack like this and just hook it up one side and then ground it to the other side. I'm not going to actually do it on camera because if they work, I don't want to blow your ears out. So off camera, I did test them. They both are working. They just don't sound the greatest. And that can be adjusted with this little screw here. You can just have it hooked up while making noise and just turn this until you get the best sound you can get. So after probing around, found out the wire that was cut down here was the wire that had the power coming down to it. And we can tell what they were trying to do was get rid of that and put this new power source to it, trying to get the horns to work, thinking that they just couldn't carry enough amperage or whatever. Because after testing these horns and finding out that they do work on the bench from the jump pack, on the car they won't work because they're drawing too many amps to be able to actually blow on the car. So I went ahead and got this hooked up properly and put a brand new set of horns on. He's not worried about originality, so a nice cheap set of horns off Amazon, gonna work just fine. So now we can get rid of this wire and it is out of here. Now we can do a quick test to make sure that they actually work just with a jumper wire here from the brush to the steering column. So all I gotta do is make sure the brush and all the contact stuff's working. He's got a good working horn now. So I went ahead and took his headlights out. This trim ring actually wasn't even snapped on properly. And once I got it apart, I realized why, because this one was assembled incorrectly. The headlights, regardless of whether they're the LEDs like this or the traditional glass lenses, all have these little blocks molded into them here, here, and here that line up to 3 notches within the bucket here, here, and here. And these are not 120 degrees apart. These two are closer together than these are, so that this fits only one way in here. But this one was actually installed wrong, so the trim ring didn't fit. So there actually is a very good reason why they do this pattern so it only fits in one way. Headlights do have a top to them. They are very specifically engineered to have a light pattern out of them. And if you put it in wrong, you won't get the right pattern and you could blind oncoming traffic or just not see where you're going. So they're engineered so that the light patterns, depending on what side of the road you're on, is going to be different. So that it lights up, say, the ditch line a little bit better, disperses a little bit more light that way. So you can see animals, people, and stuff on the side of the road, but it'll disperse a little bit less on the center of the road and also project it out without dispersing it too much high so that you don't blind oncoming traffic. Now, if you import a car that's maybe left-hand drive versus right-hand drive, or vice versa, whichever, and it for a country that's drives on the opposite side of the road that you drive on, then you need to change the headlights to suit the side that you drive on. Now these particular lights have more functions than he had hooked up. He only had high and low beam hooked up. These also have a little halo or angel eye around here. And we'll go over to the toolbox here and I'll show you how all that works. So this has a 3-prong connector that hooks to the original connector on the MGs, but also has 2 extra wires. Now on our connectors, you have a black wire, which will be this one here, and a blue and red, and then a blue and white. The blue and red will be low beam, blue and white will be high beam. So we connect this, you got low beam and high beam. But this one also has what they call daytime turn signal here. This one's a turn signal. You can hook this up to your turn signal bulb and let it flash with the turn signal for extra visibility. And you can also have a daytime running light, where this one you hook to your marker light and it would stay on the whole time. So as I sat down to start editing this video, I decided it would be prudent to clarify that when I say this will be on all the time, is if you hook this up to the marker light wire, it would be on the whole time marker lights are on, but wouldn't be a true daytime running light. If you wanted to use it as a true daytime running light, then you need to find a wire in the car that is on when the ignition's on, in the same way you would when you're putting a radio in or something like that. Then they would be true daytime running lights, and they would be on the whole time that the ignition's on. Now, I believe the guy bought these particular lights because he actually wanted these functions working on it, but he never hooked them up. And I just need to check with him to be sure that he does want to hook them up and how he wants them hooked up, whether he wants this to be true daytime running lights or just with the marker light on. Because this guy, I'm sure, is just trying to make this car as visible as possible. Because if you remember, last time we worked on this, we added third brake lights that also act as turn signals in the back of the car, because he got rear-ended by one of these modern day young people who just don't pay that much attention and don't see a little car like an MGB. And this is as far as we're going to take this time, and we will pick up after we get some parts and some clarification from him.